Have you ever been wounded by someone who knew you? Not casually, but deeply. Someone who knew your story, your soft spots, your loyalty, and still chose to hurt you. I've been sitting with that kind of pain lately, the kind that doesn't just sting in the moment, but echoes long after, because it didn't come from an enemy, it came from someone close. And I keep asking myself a dangerous question. How do you forgive when the betrayal feels personal? What if forgiveness feels less like freedom and more like letting them win? What if holding on to the pain feels safer than letting it go? If you're in that place right now, where trust feels shattered, where your heart feels guarded, where you're replaying conversations in your head, wondering how it all went so wrong, this journey matters. Not because I have answers, but because I'm walking through the same wilderness. And I've noticed something unsettling. The people most powerfully used by God weren't spared betrayal. In fact, betrayal seems to be part of the path, not as punishment, but as preparation. And I want to explore that with you, slowly, honestly, without rushing to conclusions. Let's start with Joseph, not the powerful governor yet, just Joseph the dreamer. Young, hopeful, maybe even a little naive. He trusted his brothers, ate with them, worked alongside them. And then one day, without warning, the tone shifted, the looks changed, the warmth disappeared. Imagine the confusion as hands you recognized grabbed you, stripped you, threw you into a pit. The terror of realizing the people meant to protect you were the ones selling you. No explanation, no apology, just silence as you were carried farther and farther away from the life you thought God promised you. Joseph didn't land in Egypt feeling holy or hopeful. He landed there heartbroken, disoriented, betrayed. And that's where the real tension begins. Because God didn't explain himself. He didn't rescue Joseph immediately. He let the story stretch. And then there's David, anointed king, yet hunted like a criminal. Betrayed not by strangers, but by Saul, the very man who once welcomed him into his home. David played music to soothe Saul's tormented mind, and that same man later hurled a spear at him. David had every reason to fight back, to justify revenge, to say, "After all I've done for you." And when David finally had the chance, when Saul stood vulnerable, unaware, David felt the pull we all feel. End it. Protect yourself. Set the record straight. But something inside him hesitated, not because the pain wasn't real, but because David realized something dangerous.
What's in there?
Becoming bitter would cost him more than the betrayal ever did. And then, Jesus, betrayed with a kiss, not shouted hatred, but affection. One of the 12. One who walked with him, ate with him, watched miracles unfold. Judas didn't betray Jesus from a distance. He did it up close. And Peter too, bold, loyal Peter, swore he would never abandon him, and then denied him 3 times. Imagine the weight of that moment, alone, arrested, looking into the eyes of friends who disappeared when it mattered most. If anyone had the right to close his heart forever, it was Jesus. Yet the story doesn't resolve there. It waits, it stretches, it hurts. Notice the pattern. In every story, the betrayal happens before the breakthrough, before the crown, before the resurrection, and the question hangs in the air: what do you do with the pain while you wait? Because here's the uncomfortable truth I'm wrestling with: betrayal doesn't just hurt us, it invites us to become something: bitter, hardened, vengeful, or free. But freedom has a cost, and forgiveness feels like paying it up front with no guarantee. Joseph had power later, real power. He could have crushed his brothers. David had authority. He could have justified revenge. Jesus had divine authority and still chose the cross. And here's where the story quietly turns. Forgiveness didn't erase the betrayal, it transformed it. Joseph didn't say, "It didn't hurt." He said, "You meant it for evil." He named it. But then he added, "God meant it for good." That shift changes everything. David didn't deny Saul's actions. He refused to let them define him. Jesus didn't minimize the pain, he absorbed it, and in doing so, broke the cycle. And this is where something clicks for me. Forgiveness isn't saying what happened was okay. It's saying what happened will not control who I become. Betrayal tries to turn us inward, make us guarded, suspicious, closed. Forgiveness interrupts that process. It doesn't make you weak, it makes you unchain yourself from the moment that hurt you. The wilderness wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Joseph learned leadership in isolation. David learned humility in hiding. Jesus revealed love at its most costly. So what if your current pain isn't proof you were wrong to trust, but proof you're being shaped for something deeper? What if forgiveness isn't about them at all, but about refusing to carry a weight you were never meant to hold? Restoration doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it means peace without closure. Sometimes it means God restoring you, your heart, your clarity, your future, without ever restoring the relationship the same way. Here's what I'm learning, and maybe you need to hear it too. Forgiving doesn't rewrite the past, but it does rewrite the future. It breaks the cycle. Pain doesn't have to be passed down. Betrayal doesn't get the final word. You don't forgive because they deserve it. You forgive because you deserve freedom. So the real question isn't, can I forgive them? It's what kind of person do I want to become after this? As you move through this week, sit with that. Ask yourself where bitterness might be quietly shaping your decisions. Ask where God might be inviting you, not to forget, but to release. And maybe the challenge isn't to forgive all at once, but to take one honest step toward letting go. I'd love to know, what's the hardest part of forgiveness for you right now? Let's keep this conversation going.